Hi, Fanny. Can you hear me okay? Okay, everybody, thank you for joining. I've just given an extra 5 minutes or so just to make sure we got everybody into the webinar. Welcome to Zyxel's MSP Evolve, which is about becoming a managed service provider and embracing the service opportunities that are available. So really today is about talking about how we can help you and about our MSP Evolve campaign, which we're obviously trying to encompass customers and how we can help you evolve into becoming an MSP or even understanding what an MSP is. So towards the end of the session, we'll have some questions and answers. So if you can post them in the chat, and at the end, I will try to answer them, or my colleague will try to answer them as well. So let's get started and roll into it. So before we sort of go into how we can help you, first we need to kind of understand what an MSP is. So a managed service provider today, originally when it started off, we would have thought that it's more of a a dubbed down ISP, but the reality is that anybody who's doing services remotely or charging for services is effectively a managed service provider, whether you believe that or you think of yourselves of that already, or whether you're an MSP. And the idea that we want to try and put across is to try and help you embrace, this type of business style and delivery to try and enhance your business and get out of the rut of traditional IT business that's around today. So welcome to MSP Evolve. So to join us as part of this whole campaign, we want to try and help you become the MSP and evolve. So rather than just be it's not a revolution that MSP has been about for some time, but we want to help you evolve to become an MSP. And what we've tried to do is try to break that down to 4 easy stages to make your journey really easy, so that we can help you become an MSP or enhance your MSP capabilities. So we've broken that down into advance, grow, partner, and adapt. And what we'll do is we'll go over each of those sections and kind of discuss how these elements are. So some of them are about the challenges, some of them are about how you can enhance your business and look at different strategies, and some of it is about how we can help you with our products and services that we offer. So we'll start with becoming an MSP. And the advancing and understanding the opportunity of managed service providers. So we want to talk about how the marketplace is changing and how the evolution of how we do business is changing as well. So certainly the market is growing for MSPs and the opportunity is much bigger. So this marketplace is growing and very fast. So in 2019, the MSP as a whole, and obviously there are lots of different elements of managed service provider, from from data centers to networking. Obviously, we want to cover our section, but the research has been done on the whole MSP market. In 2019, it was valued at 186 billion, and it's expected to grow to 365 billion by 2025. So there's a real big opportunity here to try and understand, where the market's moving, and some of these are changing customer requirements, business better opportunities, and really to understand the change in the way that people are doing business. So if we go back sort of 5-6 years ago, it was certainly, you would go, it was a break fix type environment, and now people are trying to get into that whole monthly subscription, or that service style where you are delivering the service to them and they are just doing their day-to-day business. So use of managed services among MSPs has obviously increased, and in the recent research paper, using managed services, 39% are using some kind of managed service or in some kind of capacity. So it could be that they're using cloud services, or they could be using network managed services. But overall, this is 39%. 38% are not using but have considered using managed services. Again, it goes back to the change in how people are looking at how they do or manage their IT in business. So, like I say, if you go back in 5-6 years ago, the number was much lower then, and people would employ internal IT staff and try to create this whole internal infrastructure. And as IT roles have evolved, then they've got involved in more business orientated projects like managing data, managing systems. So for us as a business, we see that there is an opportunity for managed service providers to take some of that element to ease the burden for their customers, so they can take the networking infrastructure and manage that, and then let those IT guys continue to do their evolving roles, which has changed from like 5-6 years ago. 23% are not using managed services today. So obviously, there is an area where we could target this kind of business and try and move them into this kind of managed service provider business, or indeed our end customers, where we want to move them around there. So to go further into that, managed services are growing in popularity from the customer side. So because it's utilizes better utilization of in-house talent, like we described before, they're using their own talent to do their internal data infrastructure and managing the business, etc. And then you can outsource some of that expertise to make it much better. Improve user experience and productivity. So we're obviously increasing in improvement in the user experience, so make it faster, more reliable. And these often have an impact on kind of the way that we do our business. So when we see how a business is operating, the worst thing you can experience is when things keep cutting out, things keep breaking down, and often it's down to poor maintenance, or down to equipment that's not spec'd correctly or didn't grow with you as a business. And when you work with a managed service provider, SMBs can start to concentrate on their business and let IT infrastructure from a managed service provider help them evolve and help them maintain, so that their experience of network connectivity and how everything works is maintained. I mean, no one likes something to disconnect or break down. So the idea of a managed service provider around this area is to keep a constant evolution and proactive approach to IT. Obviously, you can reduce maintenance costs by doing this, and like we said before, better IT performance, and essentially could maintain lower IT costs, because you are wrapping it around a service which is continuously evolving. So this means that you can it will grow with your business, as opposed to having to do the OPEX versus CAPEX in deployment, where you are heavily investing in infrastructure at the beginning, and then 3 years down the time you're ripping all that kit out, and then you're starting all over again, and then you're doing the investment again. So this process is quite an expensive way of doing IT management, and the idea is to move into a service-based delivery, so that first of all, as a MSP yourself, you can maintain from monthly billing and maintenance and proactive approach to delivering IT services to your customers, so they're benefiting and you're benefiting, but also you are helping them reduce their overheads in terms of upfront costing and ongoing costs and maintenance costs. So with our MSP Evolve, we want to better utilize that talent in-house. So we want to expand what you can do with your business today. So when we talk about the MSP side of things, we're talking about today, if you only have 5 members of staff and you have X amount of customers, then your ability to scale out of that means that you have to start to add more resources to your team. Whereas what we're saying here is we can really improve the efficiency on those day-to-day tasks by using our whole infrastructure and our delivery service to make it easier and faster, so that the more you can focus on growing your business, whereas we can maintain the easy parts of the regular routine jobs that you need to do are better utilized, and allow your talent to be used internally better for approach for new business or expanding, or for doing more complicated tasks. Again, we want to improve the user experience and productivity, reduce maintenance costs for you as a MSP as well as for your customers. So we'll go a little bit more into that as we go through the presentation, about understanding the kind of challenges in today's business, especially around managing services, better IT performance and lower IT costs. So why an MSP, and why not just a regular IT company? So current market conditions are changing. So there's little money in hardware, or less margin than there was before. Certainly, we've seen the pinch, as you see a bit further down. E-commerce is adding pressure to that. The reseller community, as we discussed before, is moving towards services and specialization in sales. So not just installing a computer, installing a switch, but more evolving around the services and how you can help that customer evolve into what they're doing as a business, rather than just box shifting a device. Again, today we see quite often that there are very big geographical limitations. So IT resellers tend to stay within a region because it's easy for them to reach within the time. And as they expand out into further regions, they have to invest heavily in either by bringing another resource, or they need to team up with and share the profitability between 2 or 3 partners so that they can cover a larger area. But by utilizing Zyxel's methodology in this delivery, means that you can expand further out without having to have the limits of geographical limits of expanding around the country, for example, or even internationally, rather than just staying within a certain area within your region. So more demand on network as a service. So like I said before, it kind of ties in with the other things. People are now looking for how they look at networks as a service, rather than just a box that we're going to add a one-time installation, but how we're going to manage that, and how we're going to evolve it, and how we're going to manage it for the customer as their changing requirements happen. If you think about before, a scenario would be you go in, you install a switch, and you install wireless, and you install telephones with that service, and then 4 or 5 weeks later they want to move some desks around, and you need to go back out again to help them move the network around. What we're trying to do to help you with is automate that service, and try and help you to do that, so that you don't have to go out there and break fix everything, and that we can automate some in the background, or make it very easy accessible remotely. Obviously, you have resource limitations, like your own team, and as you scale out, obviously, we want to make sure that you can utilize the current resources you've got within your organization to expand your business rather than having the limitations like we said before, and obviously making it a cost-effective scale and scalability wise to deliver to services to your customer. I mean, obviously, you can buy the biggest and greatest service, but if the cost is not right, then you can't pass that onto your customer. So we need to make sure that it's an affordable way to do that. So there are obstacles in becoming an MSP, and obviously we want to educate you on those to try and help you get to the the evolution of being a managed service provider. So like we said before, there's a heavy investment into infrastructure to maintain and monitor. I'll cover that in a little bit further on. I've got kind of a flow that will show you how and why, so you can understand where those costs come from. Obviously, billing platform wise, integrating with your billing for monthly subscription. Monitoring platform often requires heavy investment in terms of time and resource to manage, which also I'll cover a little bit later. Engineering resource is obviously a biggie, because it means that if you are installing equipment for a customer, often you need to get it all out the box. You need to configure it all the day before, make sure it's all working, and then obviously you go to do the deployment. And some of that often you can't charge for, and which means that you lose in terms of engineering resource, or you're limited in terms of engineered resource to, to expand your business. On-site resource, again, it goes back to some of the current market conditions where you want to try and expand your business, but you have either limitations on getting to site, or you need to share the resource with other companies to try and cover a larger area. Out of hours support or firmware upgrade, break fix, often, when I remember when I was an engineer, I would spend many a night doing firmware upgrades during, over the sort of midnight period when the network was least at use or not used at all if it's a smaller business. But that means that you are having to work out of hours, and your customer won't necessarily see that the benefit of that. So to try and reduce that, we'll talk about how we can improve that a little bit further down into the presentation. Asset management is a big problem for many customers. Where is our kit located? What's it doing? What's the serial numbers, etc. And that often needs another complete system to manage that. So it becomes a whole area, especially now with the the need to document and manage the equipment, especially as an MSP. As you scale out, you'll certainly start to see the challenges with how you're going to manage the assets. So before it becomes a problem, we want to try and make you aware of that and understand how we can help you with that. And that goes back down to device and user management as well. So adding additionally to that whole process, the device and management user. So again, we'll cover this a little bit further we have a kind of a flow to understand how that user and desktop the management cycle can. Also, GDPR compliance starts to become into play with where's the data stored, how much information are you storing, etc. And when you start to store logs and data and information on a network storage device in your network, then away from your customer site, then you have to start complying with quite a lot of GDPR compliance as well. So the benefits of becoming an MSP is that there's little or less investment in terms of monitoring our platform. You can expand your business on the same resource. So like we said before, on-site resource, engineering resource, and your skill set, you want to be able to expand based on what you've got today with the same resources that you've got, but make it more efficient. Better QoS or quality of service to customers. So this can be by proactively looking at and monitoring equipment. So by making it easier for the customers, and also giving them reassurance that you're actually looking at this by creating reporting and information about what's going on their network, as well as making adjustments, or even talking to them about, oh, we've put this access point in this area, it's oversubscribed, we need to put more devices in that area. So it gives you purpose, and your customer understands really about what the services that you're delivering. So obviously easy deployment, remote support, remote management and configuration, and also creates repeatable and scalable business, which sticky business, which becomes part of your whole core business structure. So if you was doing one-time installations before, or you're doing the odd services here and there, we can help you with our technology and services, help you deliver services through the use of our equipment and platforms. So it can make repeatable and scalable business for yourself, and also reduce the overhead in terms of how you're going to deliver that. So we offer great value against e-commerce as well. So obviously by encompassing the whole service part into it, then you're not just selling a box anymore, you're selling the service around it, and how you're delivering it to the customer, so the customer feels that you're delivering good solid IT resource that's proactively monitoring their equipment. So obviously we want to help you grow, so we want to discover how to help your business, and how we how our solutions can do that. But before we go too far into how that works, we need to understand how managed service provider works versus a traditional business. So or the challenges that you have when you are running an MSP. So before we start, at the bottom we have an investment in kind of man hours. So as we've many of us at Zyxel have been engineers in in the past, we understand how this type of business model works and what goes into delivering this. And often man hours is kind of the one that's kind of it almost doesn't have a price tag on it. People just kind of take it for granted. But when you're a business, you have to accommodate for man hours in terms of how you're going to deliver services, how much time is needed to do that. Additionally, you have investment in infrastructure. So to manage your customers' IT infrastructure, you often have to add investment yourself to be able to manage the customer. And often you can't pass that cost on to your customer either, because you have to try and embed it into a service or a package. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through step by step a little bit how a normal and managed service provider, or how some of you may be working today, and how we can improve that whole situation. So everybody needs to kind of purchase equipment, whether it be switches, security, wireless, or licenses and maintenance contracts. Then we come to install equipment, which often involves pre-installation, complex install on site, so quite lengthy in time, to make sure that everything's delivered on time. So you spend time before you go to site to ensure you can reduce time on site, but your customer only wants to pay for the time on site. So really you're doing that out of the benefit to make your service much better and delivery much better, with minimum disruption to your customer. But if you're lucky, you maybe get away with charging customers 1 day for that installation. If it's a massive installation, then it could be 2 or 3 days pre-configuration. So it becomes quite complicated, and you have to have a workbench, everything set up, and your engineers are spending time testing all the equipment, etc., before they go to site. Then when we want to monitor the equipment, obviously this normally involves using industry standards like SNMP, ICMP, syslog, which is a way to read information, a standardized way to read information, so the status of the device. ICMP is like basically pinging us a message to the device and back to check that it's up or down. And then we have the syslog, which is all the information that comes from each individual device. We then need some kind of access to the site. So that often means a complexity in terms of either you have VPN infrastructure or you have an MPLS infrastructure, which you have to invest in. It's very difficult to, get a coffee shop to buy a high-end firewall with VPN just because you want to monitor their equipment, even though that's your service. So to try and reduce that overhead, you have to think about how or what you're going to use to access it. But in order to read these industry standards from devices, often you'll need to be have direct access to the network. It also opens up some questions over GDPR as well, because you're physically accessing somebody else's network. On top of that, then you need to start monitoring the equipment. So you need to take all that information that you're getting through ICMP, SNMP, and syslog, and any other management protocol that you're using. You want to consolidate all together, and you want to be able to make it so that you can proactively manage the IT. And you need to access all that via a VPN or MPLS to see that network locally. So in my example, I've used two. One is extremely high-end or industry standard, which is called SolarWinds, which is often used by ISPs and larger MSPs, and then Zabbix, which is completely free. But both have a great deal of investment required in terms of time, configuration, and managing. So SolarWinds is extremely expensive in terms of licensing, etc., but it gives you absolutely everything. It's like the Ferrari of software for managing and monitoring. But you have to configure every single device and every single type of device when it comes along, and then you will need to make specifications about what you're going to do with that device. Zabbix is exactly the same. It's extreme, it's cheap. You install it on a Linux server, or Windows server, and then you configure absolutely everything. But again, you need a massive investment in time to configure it and get it up and running. Then you need to store all that data. So you're gathering all this information about your customers' data infrastructure so that you can be proactive on support. And then you need to store all that information so that you can look at, back in time to analyze the information to see what's going on the network and see where things are going wrong. And this often means you need to either store the data locally in a data center, or even indeed on cloud servers as well. So you have to add hardware infrastructure into this equation on top of what you already had in terms of hardware, like switching, routers, firewalls, etc. Then you have the complexity of updates and making changes. So, for example, if you want to patch switches, to the latest firmware, which you should be doing really for security purposes, often if you have to ask an IT technician when was the last time you patched firmware for a switch, you probably say never, unless I needed to ring support. So, to make these installations and patches of firmware or upgrades to the software, then you often need to do this out of hours, like we discussed before, which makes it more complicated. And obviously you need to do one by one, or you need to try and automate that process. And then again, for making changes to multi-site makes it very complicated as well, because you have to log into each individual site. You need to access devices on each local site to make the adjustments. So this obviously takes time and resource and man hours to deliver this service to the customer. Then you have user and device management, so authenticating users either by radius or interacting with some kind of username and password infrastructure you have to either accept guests or negate anything from getting onto the wrong side of the network. And this can be quite complicated task and time consuming. So especially if you're doing individual devices, individual sites. So as you scale out as a business to look after more and more customers, it becomes more and more complicated to deliver. So you need to try and make this whole process very streamlined. So that's kind of how it all kind of ties together. Sorry, I'll go back a little bit. So you can see at the bottom, we can see the investment in man hours is quite high, and the investment in infrastructure to support your customers is extremely high as well. So how about if you look at it from a cloud delivery perspective, and how you would use it from our software and hardware that we can kind of offer as part of our MSP solution. So again, you still need to install, buy and purchase equipment. There's no getting away from that. Obviously, we can reduce the licensing, costs by helping you as a partner, as a managed service provider partner. We can, help deliver a much more cost-effective solution. We can now reduce the installation time to 5 to 10 minutes, so you can be up and running in minutes. Is actually a slogan for some of the platform, which allows you to deliver products where they're still even in the box. And then ship directly to site. So, obviously we can reduce on-site time, we can reduce the delivery, and also we can reduce the fact that you don't really need to do the pre-configuration and the testing before. You can ship the products directly to site and then deliver them. And in some cases, we've even seen it where you can deliver the products to site, and an engineer's been out, spec'd out where it needs to go, and then the electrician who's running the cables is told where to fit them to reduce time and effort. So you can, a less skilled IT engineer versus somebody who's already running the cables, it can obviously lower the installation costs as well. We don't need to do any of that monitoring, with these industry standards, because our platform has infrastructure built into it. There's no access requirements like VPN infrastructure, so we can remove that out of the equation and any complications that happen. The actual platform itself, so that we'll go into a little bit further, is actually a monitoring platform that allows you to do switch security and wireless products in one platform. So you can remove the equation of investing in an external platform and really using it as a whole ecosystem. We obviously store the data, so we have two different variants, but the maximum we can kind of store is historical data for 365 days, which is often, enough for customers, but we obviously can, look at a smaller range as well for depending on the service that's taken. Simplified updates and changes, so we can schedule the firmware, so none of this engineers sitting overnight and doing the firmware upgrades. We can automate them, and in the case of something happening, it will roll back to the previous version. And also making configuration changes to multi-sites and multi-devices is streamlined as well. Again, we can do user authentication in the traditional manners, which is often, in bigger infrastructures still required, but often the smaller clients don't have the infrastructure or the expertise to deliver radius. So within our platform, we also have a built-in radius and captive portals to try and streamline that and make it really easy for you to deliver to different tiers of business. So if you have a larger customer, then you can really expand and adapt. And if you've got smaller customers who need a real simpler approach and want to be easier to manage, then you can still tailor for those types of customers with a different price range, so that you're not kind of outpricing yourself out of the market. You can kind of attract from both sides. So why Zyxel? So you can take the first steps by becoming a successful MSP by utilizing our platform and our services and our partner program, which is MSP Evolve. There is little investment in terms of infrastructure, and you can use our Nebula Flex products or our dedicated Nebula products. We have a flexible approach to expanding your business, so our platform allows you to evolve around with you. We can simplify the basic and the IT management requirements. Obviously still need skilled staff, but we can make some of the everyday tasks much simpler and easier to use, including speeding up deployment, firmware scheduling, the need to set up and configure while it's still in the box. So obviously, like we said before, the benefit of this is that you can configure everything while it's still in the box, deliver it to site, and when they plug it in, it'll self-deploy. So real big in saving in terms of how we're going to deliver and reducing engineer costs. We can assist with the GDPR compliance, so you don't need to have that VPN infrastructure directly into their network, and obviously we hold some of the data in our infrastructure, which is compliant. We can obviously do over-air updates, so we can push configuration changes and push firmware updates on a schedule based on what you're required to do. We have reactive and proactive support, so you can include break fix and monitoring. So improving the rather than being reactive when a customer rings you, you can start to see some of the problems, even to the point where some of the platform can do machine learning, where it can understand where the problems lie and try to rectify them themselves. So for example, in wireless, we have a function called wireless health, where it will monitor the clients connected to wireless and adjust its conditions to make sure that the client causing the issue is moved to another access point, or that the channel width is reduced. So it uses kind of machine learning mechanisms to improve the way that it's doing, and then reports back to you to say, oh, this has been done. So your customers experience a good service, and some of that part of that service is being automated, or at least the first parts of what you would do to identify a problem as being done for you. We also support multi-organization management from one window, so it's multi-tiered, so you can have multiple organizations with multiple sites, and you can manage them all from a top level, so that you can dip in and out of each organization and manage each individual device as well under all that infrastructure. So what we can offer, which is license management, obviously centralized management we discussed before. We do have some products which have advanced threat protection. We have full network management in terms of switching, we have security, and we have wireless within our infrastructure. We also conduct centralized updates and backup, as we discussed before. We can offer Wi-Fi marketing for you and your customers. Advanced optimization, like we discussed before, we have obviously network optimization tools, etc., underneath the platform. Our products can include next business day replacement, and some of them are covered by lifetime warranty, which is end of life plus 5 years. We have a centralized place to do log monitoring and alerting, and also we have some products which support VPN optimization, so SD-WAN, so software defined wide area network. So as part of the Evolve MSP program benefits, so Gold partner level discounts will receive 12% on SMB product purchases from distribution. Additional exclusive discounts on licenses. So MSP license we are going to introduce further down the line, which will allow you to manage your products on a much larger scale, and we will make this specifically for managed service providers. We obviously have education webinars, which at the end of this we'll talk about some of those as well. Free product set. So after training, Nebula products. On Nebula products, we will start, set up and help you, so you can have an internal kit to practice with and look at how it works, etc. We have a dedicated pre-sales and post-sales engineers. So and some of that also is available face-to-face. So if you want to have a project, or you need us to help you with some of the deployment, then we can help you with that. And this can be also over the phone, or we have some online material and training material that can help you as well. So becoming an MSP with Zyxel, so becoming a partner, we obviously have a full range of product services. So we talked about our platform, etc. So it's been designed for MSPs. It obviously can go down to single site, one customer to thousands of customers, and there's no limitation. It will just keep scaling with you. So really designed around how MSPs work. So we have this tiered structure with notifications and how you manage your products under each organization, etc. So really becomes part of your ecosystem as a managed service provider. It's important to understand where it sits. So under the MSP banner, obviously there are lots of elements. So IT consultancy, web hosting, email, data storage, which is something that as a vendor we don't do. So this part of the portfolio is to deliver network implementation, security and protection, break fix, IT support, and proactive monitoring. So this is kind of our portfolio, and help you evolve into an MSP by helping you gain this section of services. From the Nebula components perspective, we have a Nebula Control Center, which we refer to as NCC. We have a cloud wireless solution. So we have a mix of what we call hybrid products, which are Nebula Flex and Nebula Flex Pro products, which allow you to use existing products that you have maybe in your infrastructure today. So if you're already a customer of Zyxel, you might be able to move them into our wireless infrastructure already today. There's no kind of charge for that. Obviously, we have licensing infrastructure and stuff like that to to help you, but the products, if they support it, can be migrated into there today, as well as switches as well. And we have dedicated security gateways, as well as SD-WAN solution and ATP, which is advanced threat protection. Additional to that, we have the mobile phone app, which helps you kind of monitor on the road so that you can make changes and monitor what's going on. And it does support multi-tier MSP view as well in the app, so that you can see the quick status of the sites. So join us in 2020 for our training events, and we have a schedule for MSP partner. So webinars and roadshows, which are coming soon. We have a pure MSP with Carl Palanchuk, which is he wrote an entire book on how to become an MSP and the challenges, etc. as well. So very interesting, guys, really worth a read. We have a Nebula live demonstration and how to secure revenue. So please join these and try and utilize these to try and help you understand how to evolve into becoming an MSP. So 13th of February, 21st of February, and the 5th of March. And again, stay tuned for our roadshow, where we'll be visiting various places in the UK, and you can come and meet us and speak to us about your business and how we can help you evolve, utilizing our platform and our services and even our knowledge and expertise where we've done some of these things before. So quick recap, should embrace this MSP opportunity, become a strategic partner, not just a supplier. So instead of just supplying a product or just doing one-time installs, become a partner, and benefit from that whole ecosystem. This will enable you to have regular, repeatable revenue, which is obviously good for you, and obviously helps your customers, where even moves them to a monthly subscriptions, so they're tied into sticky business, like we said before. Better quality of service, because you can be more proactive in the way that you can tackle those customers, and also you can enhance services to your portfolio. So you can build different services around these solutions to help your customers and yourselves grow your business, and offer value, and USPs, unique selling points over e-commerce, where you're enrolling all of these products and services together to create a solution for your customers, whether it be tiered types of business or whether you're doing bespoke. This will help you really fight and combat, and eventually give you a good margin and good sticky business. So thank you for joining. Hopefully this was educational for you. Obviously you can ask us questions, etc. And feel free to contact our office as well and speak to our sales engineers to discuss how we can help you with the products and solutions that we have. And obviously we have a new webinar that we just discussed before, and the roadshow coming as well, so please be sure to join those. Thank you very much.